We are all very concerned about our environment, and I know my colleagues here have alluded to that this morning. I come from the constituency of Cavan and Monaghan, and I just wondered if there are any realistic or serious plans at looking about a rail line from Dublin to Navan and on to Cavan, where traditionally there actually was a line. I know some of it has been maybe actually used for the mines still in Navan, but I think if we are serious about our environment, we are serious about city congestion, and we are serious about making the cities realistic working places, which it transpires they continue to be for people living in more rural parts. I'd just like to know your views on that, and what plans, or is there any sort of a sense of priority about a development like that, a rail line that would bring commuters from Cavan and Monaghan into the city? Unfortunately, we very much depend on our public transport, which fortunately we have a good bus service, but as I said, we have no rail line, and I'd just like your comments on that. I don't see the environment in terms of Cavan Monaghan changing anytime soon, because we have single-digit visits from the IDA to both Cavan and Monaghan in terms of any real investment or any real sense of employment. And unfortunately, we are really realistically back to a day when 10 years ago, young people in all age groups and workers are...
Sorry. Just the microphone isn't working. There's a book on top of the button there.
Sorry.
No, you're better now.
Sorry about that. I'll start again. You got the point. You get the point. But realistically, workers are find themselves back in the situation that employment, and predominant employment for builders and skilled workers, is back in the city, and you will find any day travelling on the N3 carloads of people stuck in traffic on that corridor, and that's why I think a rail line should be a realistic priority and something we are seriously thinking about in terms of servicing people in that area. On a positive note, I would say the feedback I would be getting from constituents themselves, that the local link is a positive development. The weekends, I think we have to look beyond the 11 p.m. in terms of if we're serious about rural isolation and servicing and providing a real transport for people living in rural areas like Cavan and Monaghan, that needs to be expanded upon. And while there have been initiatives announced recently, I'm just wondering in terms of the Cavan-Monaghan scenario there, if there's any plans of expansion of that. I do know people who have actually come into my clinics from small villages like Red Hills and places like that are actually being linked into the main towns of Cavan, and it's for students as well. It's providing a great service for those attending Cavan Institute. So I just like your comments on that, and just to say it is positive. I think what's happening, we need more of it. For Ray, in terms of Bus Eireann, Ray, I have spoken to you before about your adjustments, and you have called them enhanced services for the M3 corridor. So I'd just like to, if you would reflect here today on what those services and the changes that you have made, what the feedback is on that. Are they as effective as you thought that they would be? I'd particularly like you to comment on the change of bus drop-off points at the Mater Hospital, because for me and my constituents, that was a real bone of contention, a real disappointment when those changes were made, particularly for the elderly and people who are ill attending the Mater Hospital. That was a very important stop to them. I know there were changes made to that, and I just wondered if you'd reflect on that here for us today as well. I don't want to repeat what has been said already, but I would have to say I would reflect and concur with a lot that has been said in terms of school transport. And while I understand that you are the provider and have to go by the policies laid out by the Department of Education, I would have to concur with the fact I had a scenario where a family of 4 siblings, 3 of them going to Virginia College. When these measures were introduced, the 4th child and the last child, the only school that they could get to was in Ballyjamestuff and St Clair's, and they were told as the crow flies. So you had 3 children in one family going to one school and the last child being sent to, and I just wondered if you'd comment, was there a phasing out period? I think that would have been a logical thing to do. Perhaps there was that, but you might just comment on that. And just to say that one of the most the frequent rep to come into a constituency office for me, and I'm sure it's not any different for any of my colleagues, and probably the most frustrating is dealing with Bus Eireann and reps from parents coming in for school transport. And I just wondered, Ray, I've just spoke with my staff before I came in here, they said last year they were getting responses much more quickly than we are this year, and I just wondered if you could tell us here today, who can we go to deal with reps in terms of school bus transport?
Thanks.
Okay, so
Senator,
that's it.